really struggling. Their families are struggling because it limits the family's flexibility to have a life outside of making sure their person gets to work. Another issue with the lack of transportation is we have activities here in the county like advocacy or dash activities, things that individuals would like to participate in, but they don't have that transportation outside of what they might have for their day program or their work. And as a service and support administrator, it's really hard for me to keep telling families, we just don't have that. We just don't have options. And I think it's one of our biggest areas of need right now is transportation providers.
So I think like Kim, like you and we had talked a little bit about self-advocacy, and I think Kate can help me touch on this a little bit more. There's, different types of waivers that our individuals are on, and under their waivers, medical transportation is covered for our individuals. So that isn't the problem. It's getting to work. It's those extracurricular activities. So if they're on one of those waivers, or they say they have natural support, and my individual wants to come to self-advocacy or go to their friend's house, or go see a movie in Toledo because local movie theater is closing down, they don't have a way to get there. Our providers do have staff in their homes to help take care of these individuals, but they might not have a provider owned vehicle. They might be using a personal vehicle. It might not be reliable transportation. They might only get reimbursed so much per month by the provider. So then that inhibits our individuals from going and being able to live the lifestyle that they want because they don't have that transportation. So we're encouraging these individuals to be parts of their community, to get out and to be involved, but they really can't do that. And we live in Northwest Ohio, which is a very rural area. So walking isn't always an option. We experience all 4 seasons here. Weather is always a condition to be considered. So we don't have that. And again, a lot of them have not just intellectual disabilities, but physical disabilities. So walking and riding a bike isn't always an option either. And, we're not Toledo. Toledo is very fortunate to have public transit. We don't have that here. So we're really relying on you guys with the study to come up with options for us in the future to have that option for our individuals here in Defiance County. So we really appreciated Kim coming out again to self-advocacy. We hope that we continue to have those conversations for her. We want to work with community partners like Henry County Transportation Network or KMP Medical, and maybe create those relationships moving forward in the future to offer those options to our individuals.
Thank you, ladies. Does anyone have questions for them? Or want to add to that? No? Yes, maybe.
I would just say that, I completely support everything that you're saying. We see those same types of barriers and struggles for a lot of the homeless individuals that we serve, even when they're housed in the community, while they're receiving homeless assistance services, there's lots of support that can surround them. We don't have any capacity to continue that. So what happens is they become housed. The assumption is that they will maintain stability for their housing. Part of that is having some type of an income, and without the ability to meet their basic needs of employment, the housing stability suffers. So it becomes a cycle.
Yeah. Thank you, Angie. Was someone else trying to talk there, or is just? Okay.
I'm sorry, we have a school interruption happening.
Oh, that's okay. Okay.
No, and Angie, I echo that. Like I said, it's not just our community of individuals. Defiance County is fortunate. We have an organization called the Defiance Dream Center that services the underprivileged here in Defiance County, helping them get back on track with their lives. And they experience those same things. Maybe single mothers that don't have daycare services and they don't have transportation to get those children to daycare, or trying to find employment and they don't have a way to get to employment. So it's definitely not just our population. It is those underprivileged. It's the senior population as well. So transportation is a big need here in Defiance County across the board.
Hi, this is Tony from the Fort County Adams Board, and I would just echo what everyone is saying. The same holds true for those who suffer with severe mental illness. We look at it as almost a form of prevention. If a person has the ability to have transportation where when they're suffering a bad day or struggling, they could get out and, have contact with their support network, their relatives, et cetera, to have the dignity of going to the grocery store when they choose to go to the grocery store, all these things that we take for granted. We feel that that could be a form of prevention for preventing those folks from going into a crisis situation and cycling through our network of, screening, hospitalization, et cetera. So transportation is definitely on our minds here at the board.
And they not just, they put their words into action by passing a resolution with their board to give funding to transportation. So as we move forward, hopefully that's something that we can see down the road too. We'll see. The Adams board is what I'm talking about.
Definitely, Kim, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you, Jenna. I really appreciate it. You guys are doing some really good work out there and I am impressed. And I just appreciate you coming on today and chatting with us and giving us an update on the need and what you're seeing.
Well, thank you so much, Kim. We look forward to continue working with you guys in the future.
Thanks.
Thanks, bye.
Okay, so we're going back on the agenda on task, and I want to introduce Mr. Commissioner Glenn Miller. And there were some changes this last month or so at Henry County Transportation Network. So he was just graciously offered to give us like a brief update on what's happening.
Well, thank you, Kim. And I will update you on what I can update you on. And, the rumor mill will fill in the rest. I think Jenna got off and I kind of lost track of Jenna. She's a Napoleon girl and her dad owns an insurance agency over in Henry County. And Jenna's a real peach and hilarious also. But just a quick update on what's going on at Henry County Transportation. And as you probably all aware of, Brad Booth resigned last month. However, rather unexpectedly, and which opened a whole can of worms that the commissioners had to come up to speed with a quick understanding of exactly all the different nuances of the way the funding was coming into Henry County Transportation, not so much ODOT. ODOT has notoriously always been extremely helpful. They'll walk you through the grants. They'll tell you how to fill it out so you do get the grant money. And that's the same thing with this current grant cycle that we're going through. Is probably one of the easiest applications ever done. You put a budget together, ODOT puts the numbers where they need them to be to pass on to the feds and other funding sources. We looked at and analyzed what we needed to do. Priority one was to get our 5311 grant in place. And what had happened within our organization surprised ODOT. So there was a little repair of the breach between ODOT and Henry County Transportation. And the commissioners, we asked Tracy Bush, who is our EMA director, retired senior naval chief, and spent most of his career under the water, but very, very good when it's coming to deal with very tough situations where you have to make decisions quickly, come up to understanding what is taking place, what has taken place, and then make the decision. And Tracy got us through, and he is just wonderful on grants. Typically, when grant guidance comes out, 2 days after the grant guidance comes out, he's already on the phone with the grant administrator, whether federal or state, and asking them questions. And probably 80% of the time, the grant administrators can't answer the question. So he's just that good. So he stepped in to briefly help out with transportation and getting the financial side in order. We were continuing to provide our on-demand rides as well as what we have normally done, and that it also continues. However, we are not at this point until we're ready not moving into other areas. I know there was discussions about Williams County, there's discussions about the Adams Board and transportation. And the commissioners, as well as our interim consultant, are very much aware of the issue. Our priority right now is transporting people in Henry County. And we want to continue to do that with excellence and continue to provide the service that we have our citizens above all. And then we'll move in, because there's been some discussion about the need of transportation. And we know exactly. And I'll probably jump into, it's one of your bullet points a little bit later, Kim, but I think this kind of plays into this whole thing. I was able to hire or approach Dr. Tom Stuckey, who, Tom, if you're not aware of, just recently retired from Northwest State Community College as president. And I have known Tom for a long, long time. I bought farm machinery from him back in the 70s when he was general manager of Archbold Equipment. So Tom has had a very, very interesting career, and got his PhD in human service type things, and has just progressed through. He's also accounting, and just has moved through a lot of fine organizations, and where he landed at Northwest State, I believe it was about in '98, and then retired in June of 21. So he had a great career with Northwest State Community College, wonderful personality. Admit somebody here. It's not touch screen. Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm just used to mine's touch screen. And so Tom was very gracious and has agreed to come on board. He came on board as a consultant, and he and I had a conversation this morning on his exit strategy, because he's supposed to work himself out of a job. And just so everyone knows, things are going very well. Staff has recovered, and because it's an emotional, really an emotional type situation, if you've ever been through it, where a leader suddenly resigns and moves on, and we're okay, what do we do? And then you have like the commissioners, the head, that really don't know all about the operations of the organization, which as commissioners, we shouldn't. We should depend on our department heads to do their job. That's why we hire, and hopefully all other counties around us hire very talented people to do their job. We allow them to do without micromanaging. So where I would like to go, just to reassure everyone, is that we are up and running, but currently have a moratorium on doing any additional new business. And Kim and I have had a conversation, and I think this is one of the bullet points about, I thought of something about,
Right here.
regional transit.
Mhm.
What some of you didn't know is when you were talking about a regional transit system. Henry County is the closest to a regional transit system that we have right now, but given the design of it, and it is through one county, I think it would be extremely important, in the conversation I've had with Kim, is that we look beyond. We see what Henry County's done, how successful they've been in the areas they've been successful in, but we've got to grow this bigger. And it's not the Henry County Transportation Network. It's going to be a regional network of however many counties is necessary to have. And what does it take to stand that organization up? If Henry County Transportation, for example, would grow too much more, our county auditor will not handle any of the payroll. She will not handle paying our bills. She just won't do that. And she doesn't have to. Would be our auditor's decision. So we see that as we have a glass ceiling out there that we will hit at some point in time. We plan on pushing the envelope, because there is a need to provide transportation. There is a need to provide on-demand transportation. And working strategically with KNP, working with any other providers that are in the area. But since we are funded federally, basically federally funded, we don't have a choice of who we haul. And I don't say that derogatorily at all. We can't just come in and pick the cream of the crop. The people that the rides pay the most, we can't do that. We have to take everyone. However, we can do that and continue to do that more efficiently and much smarter. And so we're looking at somewhat changing our business model, how we handle things, and we're going to see some operational changes that will may not make sense at first, but give it a little while and it will actually really make sense. And I can't expand on that right now because we're still working through the details. We're still just recovering from last month. We're also in the midst of an audit by the Auditor of State to make sure no funds have disappeared, which it doesn't appear so. But because this is a public entity, as the commissioners of Henry County, we wanted full disclosure. We wanted transparency. We want to make sure nothing has gone wrong that has caused some other issues that we're still experiencing. And I think we're going to find out when the day's done. The auditor will give us a clean bill of health. I have an area where I think we might get a slap on the hand, but it's just going to be a slap on the hands. It's not anything. The money's there. So that takes out any kind of criminal aspect to the situation, and we can move ahead full force. And I see us back completely operational in 60 days.
Wow.
I've got people, good staff, our internal staff, they're phenomenal. And given an opportunity to really do their job, well, they've stepped up in the past 2 weeks. It's just been amazing to see the change in people's facial features. Where you would see fear and trembling and oh no, the world's falling apart, or tears, just so close. It's not that anymore. Walked in the door to say hi this morning and they started picking on me right away. So that was positive, very, very positive. So I'm excited where Henry County Transportation is going, but I'm more excited for the region. Because before I'm done being commissioner for however many years that is, Kim, we will have a regional transit system. I would rather see it sooner. And when I say sooner, being stood up within 12 months.
Wow.
So I think it can be done. There's plenty of models, and I know where I've seen you. ODOT,
Yeah.
District 1.
She's MVPO.
I'm in the deal.
Oh,
Yeah.
you are?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk later. So with this, my message to everyone is we're very positive where we're at. We can get better. We're going to get better. And overall, us all working together, we're going to get this rural transportation. We will be the model in the state of Ohio when it's all said and done. I know we can do it. We've got the people to do it.
Mhm.
And thank you.
Oh, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. I am gonna piggyback off what he was saying. So after Commissioner Miller and I met, I was definitely tasked with researching what are models out there. And I have been able to talk with our 5311 coordinator, Chris, and he gave me some really good insights, and I'm going to continue to research them. We already have a relationship with Henry County and Williams County that we'd liked from every commissioner I've spoken to, which is not all of them. We'd like to move forward with doing something with Williams
Mhm.
County in the near future. And what does that look like? So some counties will sign, currently in the state of Ohio, from what Chris has told me, they'll sign service contracts. And it's just like our county is going to give you a service and you pay us for that service. And they work it out in that way. Something I'm also looking into is what would creating like a third body entity with a board, kind of like if you're familiar with Maumee Valley Planning, each of the counties that represent Maumee Valley have a voting representation on the board. What would that look like? So that's one of my tasks right now, is to just research what's out there, what's operational, and then it can't be, not every one plan fits like it. We're gonna have to decide what's right for us, what's right for Henry County, what's right for Williams County, and they'll make a determination once we kind of hopefully have all our ducks in a row and are educated on what services and organizational structures are out there. So that is something that is on my to do. You know what, I didn't ask, does anyone have questions for Commissioner Miller or with that research that I'm working on? Comments, concerns?
You did a real good job.
You must have done a really good job, you're right.
This is Tony from the Adams Board again.
Thank you.
Hi, Kim. I just wanted to just say how exciting it is to hear the words regional transportation. I think that's something that I would love to see. I mean, I think I've been working in this community for something like 31 years. I hate to admit it. And transportation has been an issue on every committee, every United Way meeting, it has been such a long time. And I think we share so much across, at least in the 4-county and then beyond, even with, Paulding, Putnam, whatever. I don't know what it would look like, but a regional approach to transportation just makes so much sense. I mean, so many folks live in one county, may work in another county. So it's just exciting to hear that. And I'd like to just see where it goes. So thank you.
Could I jump in again, Kim?
Of course you can.
That was a great comment, Tony. Thank you. I've been asked by, I don't know how many conversations with the Defiance County Commissioners, even back with Otto Nicely. And even though Otto was a Henry County native, he always gave Henry County Commissioners fits. But Williams County, Fulton County, the commissioners for the most part agree we need to do something, but really don't know what to do. And Henry County Transportation has been the closest thing to being, okay, here is an example. For Henry County to grow into a regional service, we don't gain anything. It makes sense for us to be the example and help lead the direction, but lead to an overall regional solution, not individual county solutions. Because it's not efficient. You can't operate efficiently and you can't fund efficiently. You work into schedules. Henry County sets their schedule, Williams County sets their schedule. Well, how do you work across counties in a number of ways? It still needs to be more like at least a centralized dispatch service for this. And dispatching, whether it's a Henry County Transportation van or Williams County Transportation or KNP, we dispatch across and do the most efficient that we can for our customers. Always knowing that private providers like taxis as well as KNP, and I have, Brian Keller's been a wonderful friend, but we're also both businessmen. And Brian's got to make money. So does Henry County Transportation does too, except we have a little help from, the government. But still, we have to and need to operate as much as we can in that kind of model and operate as efficiently. We're running into driver issues. We can't get drivers, and our drivers don't want to operate off hours. If they are called in and running, say 10 in the evening till 3 in the morning, they want to be busy. They don't want to be sitting somewhere in their van waiting on a call or sitting in Napoleon in the garage waiting for a call. They want to be in a vehicle moving. And that's right now what we're running into, especially for the transportation situations from the hospitals, from the ERs. When they call, the person's already been discharged at least an hour, and then staff has had a chance to call. It can't always be that way. There is a price to pay for on demand, and on demand in the private sector is always more expensive. And like with our organization and any other transit organization that may or may not pop up in the multi-county region, is you can never staff for your peak because you can never afford it. And you have to always kind of keep your staff at your lowest needed staffing level so you can keep your people busy. So we have some challenges, but I think we work together, we can creatively overcome some of those. It may not be perfect coming out of the gate, but there's always say, oh, we made a mistake here. Here's how we fix it. Here's how we change it. And also bring in the people that can help us make that happen. Sorry. Okay.
This is good.
This is a conversation I had with Dr. Stuckey this morning.
Okay, so to keep the agenda rolling, I'm just gonna hit a couple things to update you on what am I been looking at and working on. I do want to let you know that I have been taking, it's a 2-year course at the Easter Seals on travel training. What is travel training? It's essentially helping individuals learn how to take public transit, how to safely navigate, whether it be crossing a road, leaving or going to a vehicle. Sometimes they call it first mile, last mile. Sometimes that just getting from your home to the vehicle is a challenge. I just had a phone call the other day from someone from Jenna Pepper's advocacy group saying, I'm having a hard time with the slope of my curb and I can't get into the vehicle when it comes to pick me up. Can you help me? And so we're working through some solutions for that. So that is something down the road that I hope to be able program or service I can offer folks. I have been to a few conferences, specifically CTAA. I wanted to hit a few things about that. Oh, I skipped funding. Well, I'll get back to that. With CTAA, one of the things that Maumee Valley actually does as the Regional Transportation Authority organization is a transportation improvement plan. So when I think of that transportation improvement plan, I've always thought of infrastructure, roads, bridges, things like that. Well, at this conference, they said, if you have transit plans and ideas, you want to get those on the tip, the transportation improvement plans, both within the region and in the state. I listened to a gentleman at one of the sessions from North Dakota. He was eventually granted $25 million for a bus garage from the federal government. But he said it's been on his state transportation improvement plan for almost 10 years. And he's applied for funding to purchase the land. He's applied for funding for engineering and design development, for environmental studies, and now finally for construction. And so it's been multiple grant cycles, multiple conversations with his state and local area on what their plans are. And that really spoke to me because we need to make sure that we're getting all of our plans both on our coordinated plan so that ODOT and the Office of Transit knows what we want to do, and it's not coming out of left field when we come in for grants and say, hey, we want to expand our service, or we want to do this, or we want to do that. They see it coming because we've already added it to these plans. That's just something I've learned strategically in that meeting, and I thought that was something to share. Another session, this was more HRTA, it's an Iowa transit system, gave us the idea of if you are a transit provider, considering having a nonprofit arm of your organization, or you could also, I spoke with someone from the Dayton area, and she says she has a nonprofit fiscal agent. Why would you want a nonprofit arm? Well, a lot of these agencies can't actually apply for like foundation funding and grant funding if you're not considered a 501c3. So what HRTA did was created a nonprofit arm of their agency, their transportation agency, and they said it cost something like $10,000 to pay for a lawyer to draft everything. But I have a feeling they're a bigger organization than what we have currently working with. But they were able to raise over $100,000 in the first year with that nonprofit. And when I talked with the woman from CATS, which is Dayton area, Miami area of Ohio, she says that they use a nonprofit that works as their fiscal agent. She can apply for funding that goes to this nonprofit that then is cycled back out into transportation. It's a really creative way of finding extra match dollars for our transportation. And if those match dollars could go to expanded hours or service or days, I think that's where getting creative like that might help down the road. And I just thought I would share that with this group, considering there's some providers in here. If that sparks anyone's ideas or thoughts, happy to go more into conversation with that. And then I also sat in a session talking about driver shortage. It's what everyone in transportation is talking about, just like Commissioner Miller listed. And what they were finding from studies is, you can be a driver in a lot of different ways in our environment. You could be Amazon driver, you could be a freight driver. But what they found with human services drivers is you want that person, the person who has that job wants to be able to interact with the public, wants to be able to feel like they're being of service and helping someone. And they are. I mean, we heard Jenna talk about how people need to get out there to go to work and go to social events. It's not just black and white. There's a personal touch to it. And what this session really taught me is, they asked the group to talk about give some descriptive words of who your best drivers are and what they're like. And most of them are coming up with words like empathetic, caring, thoughtful, people person, really emphasizing that it's not just driving A to B and not having a social contact. It's that you're caring for these folks who are riding. It's more than just that. And they actually find that more people would be willing, according to the study they had conducted, more people are willing to be human service agency transportation providers if they understand that contact of taking care of others and caring for others. Something you might consider is when you write your job descriptions, talk about that soft skill that oftentimes isn't in the job description. Also, considering that in your marketing, I think I shared it on Facebook, but Oklahoma had a video that talks about what it's like to be a driver. And they literally walked through someone's day and how they're helping individuals and helping them be successful and independent and just having that personal touch. I think that is something that we could also market, because it's not always about dollars and cents in where you work. I mean, sometimes it is for some folks, but it can also be that sense of fulfillment and feeling like you're helping others. So important. And on that topic, the last conference I attended, and I just want to keep this in your forefront of your mind, please feel free to give me calls and emails and talk to me about it. But I went to the ODOT Civil Rights Symposium, and I want to make sure whenever we are talking about transportation and making decisions and thinking through things, that they had this phrase that said, no decisions about us without us. So if we're talking about folks who are elderly or may have a disability, that we're making sure that those folks are in this meeting, are chatting with me, or talking to our officials in transportation, because I want to make sure that we're always taking their perspective into consideration. And so, yeah, I definitely want to make sure that we have representation of potential riders in this committee. If you know of anyone who might be interested, just let me know. Okay, I'm going to go back to funding because I obviously sidestepped that one. Page down, maybe not. Oop, I went page up. Sorry, everyone, made you dizzy. So who did apply for funding in the end? We had a letter of intent for the ODOT funding cycle. We did triangular processing. I saw Kathy joined a while back. She did apply for 5310 funding for triangular processing. It helps their individuals get to and from services. particularly individuals with developmental disabilities. But they also requested additional funding for Fulton County. There was a partnership that they were able to coordinate on expanding some services for seniors. Particularly, a lot of the times when I was in the room, what we were discussing is dialysis transportation. How could we get more, because right now, if you're not familiar, Fulton County Senior Center has a really nice volunteer driver program, which is wonderful. It gets people out there and helping others. But what that doesn't mean is that there's not a set driver there every day. And so they have a hard time being able to fulfill the need for people wanting to go to dialysis, which is got to get there 2 to 3 times a week. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And so we're hoping that with some of this additional funding, either Triangular Processing or a third-party contractor would be able to assist in making sure we're serving that population in Fulton County. So I just want to hats off to Triangular Processing. They're doing a great job. Granted, we don't know that they got this funding yet. We will find out, I believe in August, July or August is when the awards are announced. As Commissioner Miller mentioned, we did have an application for Henry County Transportation Network. However, we have had to put on the back burner. Mario, your computer is a little touchy. I'm so sorry. I'm going to move this over. I don't know if you all can see that or not, what I'm doing, but there we go. Okay. So any of the projects we were discussing on expansion, such as in Defiance and Williams County, unfortunately, those have been put on pause. However, everyone I have talked to so far is on board with continuing this discussion. I don't think anyone has stepped away from the table saying we don't want to do this anymore. So my hope is that we can cycle back, continue the discussions, and hopefully apply for next year's application cycle. I just got off a call before this meeting with with Macy from ODOT, and she did let the mobility managers know that ODOT's going to be right now. The grant cycle is a 1-year grant cycle, so every year we're applying. Well, unfortunately, over the years, the Office of Transit have gone from a 25-person department to a 12-person department, and they just can't keep up with this grant cycle. So they are looking to transition away next year's grant cycle to become a 2-year grant cycle. So that would be 24-25. Macy said that would be for all transit awardees, 5311, 5310, everyone. There's other grants, but those are the ones we know about in our area. So that's interesting, and I hope exciting, only because then it's not so stressful every year with the cycle. It's a biannual cycle. What she's not sure about, she mentioned is state funding. However, state funding is on a biannual cycle. Next year would be she said it would be a new cycle that aligns with this cycle that they're proposing for ODOT. So it would really nicely align if they could get the state funds and the ODOT transit cycle to align, but that's something ODOT's working on. So that is funding. And I already talked about some of this stuff. Sorry, I'm all over the place today, obviously. And if you saw my last newsletter, you saw that I was able to successfully assist a couple communities apply for TAP grants. That's with additional sidewalks to make active transportation a little safer in their communities. And we are at MVPO working on Safe Routes to School plan for a community. So that would also increase safety for active transportation. And then finally, one of the things that folks asked me when I first started, I asked for what kind of key performance indicators would you be interested in hearing about and knowing? And one of the responses was just kind of knowing general data on what our social media and website is doing. And so for that, I kind of went back and we created a Google My Business account for my website, and that has officially been 1 year since I started that. It kind of gives me data on who's looking at the site, what are they looking at. I thought it was very helpful. Hopefully you do too. So in the year, we've had about 2,000 page views, and Obviously, at the beginning of when it first started, the new website, it was the most popular. And about the time we were confirming the coordinated plan, it was very popular, but it's kind of normalized out. What I'm mainly seeing people come to my page for is looking at program providers. You can see that KMP Medical, Henry County Transportation Network, Quadco, Bryan Senior Center, all of these are like top 10 pages I think they gave me. Seeing, this is what people typically come to the site for. And that's exciting because we are working with ODOT to create a database for program providers in the state of Ohio. Fingers crossed, hopefully that'll come yet this year. And that will even just make it easier for folks, end users, to search transportation providers. And the mobility managers have been tasked by ODOT to maintain that list, which makes sense because with our coordinated plans, we collect and we collect all this data. My Facebook page, if you haven't liked the Facebook page, please do. But I've had 17,000 reaches in the past year. And then I do compare myself against other mobility managers. And this was a chart I got for the last 28 days. As you can see, I am definitely not the highest page liked mobility management program, but it is definitely increasing throughout the last year. And we're going to continue to hopefully push the word on transportation in the region. And that kind of takes me to this first bullet point of saying, if you have public events, places that I can get out there and talk to folks, we talked about advocacy groups and others, please keep me in mind. I love to chat with people. I get ideas and suggestions, and it just never hurts for me to get out there and talk to potential riders and listen to needs and barriers and challenges. So yeah, that is the end of my report as far as mobility management. I will try my best to keep everyone updated on the monthly newsletters, but is there anything else that I have that maybe others want to share about transportation in their own areas or lives? Okay. If you don't, that's okay. Feel free to give me calls, emails, texts after this. Happy to help in any way I can. And thanks everyone for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Tony. Stop recording.